Side note, there is some trouble with the audio. Apologies for the inconvenience. I hope you still enjoy the podcast. Hi and welcome to the Fabulous Cancer Podcast. Today I'll be talking to Matty Ode, and we're going to talk about his cancer journey and being a motivational speaker and transformation coach after cancer. So welcome, Matt, and thank you for joining the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm extremely excited to be on, and I'm ready to get into this. So very excited.
Thank you. I'm so hyped.
Cool.
Would you like to introduce yourself, who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Matty Ode. I'm actually from the United States, so from Cleveland, Ohio. The best thing I can describe it, if you're not from the United States, is pretty much where LeBron James lived for most of his life, and I'm sure most people know who that is. So so I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm 28 years old now, and I am a transformational coach, a motivational speaker, a cancer survivor, and really excited to just be able to share my story here today.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Which type of cancer did you have?
So I had stage 3C testicular cancer, which is the highest form of testicular cancer. And here's the weird part about it, is for testicular cancer, mostly, I would say 90% of the symptom is in your testicle. And for me, it was actually no symptom in my testicle. I ended up having an 11 centimeter tumor in my small intestine. And that's how the doctors found out. Make a long story short, I actually woke up one night and was puking up blood and ended up going to the hospital and found out that I had lost 2/3 of the blood that was circulating in my body. So they ended up having to give me 6 bags of blood to kind of get my ground back, because I was like pretty much ready to pass out, and they thought it was an ulcer that was causing it. So they go in, I thought they fixed the ulcer, and they come back out, and that's when the doctor gave me the news that they had found an 11 centimeter tumor in my small intestine. And at the time, they didn't know it was stage 3C testicular cancer. So I got rushed to the main campus in Cleveland, Ohio, which is called the Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the top hospitals in the world. And that's where they did multiple tests and found that out.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. And
yeah,
tell me.
No, I was just going to say, I was also at that time a personal trainer. I was 24 years old. So I was a personal trainer. And really before that, the only symptoms I had was massive back pain. But the back pain, I never, you're 24 years old. So you think that you're kind of invincible, and you don't think that anything can really happen to you. And, for me, I was the same way. And especially being healthy, my friends, my family, and my girlfriend, the last thing they thought was, oh, he has cancer or anything. So obviously I let the back pains go, and that's how it escalated, and the tumor was actually causing the back pain. So.
Wow. Because can I ask, do you know how long you waited before that actually escalated?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how long the tumor had been growing, but what I do know is that I noticed the back pains probably 2.5 months prior, and they did get a lot worse, to the point where I absolutely should have went to a doctor. I mean, I was to the point where I could barely, I could walk, but I could only walk for maybe 1.5 to 2 minutes, and I'd be like, I have to sit down, my back's hurting too much, all of these things. And I would go to a chiropractor, and they'd be like, oh, it's just an alignment in your back, whatever. And it wasn't, obviously. So that me puking up blood one night was the kicker of like, listen, you need to go to a hospital. You need to get yourself checked out. And that's when it kind of all happened.
Wow, that must be so terrifying.
It's life-changing in a matter of 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
You just, no one ever can expect news like that. But this is how I always try to tell people. I say, you're always going to get some unexpected news in your life, and it might not always be great. But if you can look at life as, how is this situation or this challenge happening for me, not to me, life becomes a lot different. I want to say it one more time. Look at life as, how is this happening for me, not to me? So your situation becomes a lesson if you ask, how is this happening for me, instead of an excuse of, why is this happening to me? And that was a big thing for me when I was diagnosed, of like having that strong mental attitude towards, how am I going to overcome this, and why is this happening for me in this moment?
Yeah, and I think it also really takes out I don't know if victim is the name for it, but more like the self what the fuck, okay, I can't swear, what the hell is going, okay, I don't know, okay, doesn't matter, what the fuck's going on.
You can, hey, this is your podcast, so you can say whatever you want. I don't mind it. So,
Yeah, that's true. Okay, thank you.
yeah, of course. I love it. Hey, the more authentic, the better.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Of
um,
course.
because with me, with life after cancer, which we're gonna get into in a second, is like it was really like what the hell just happened, and like why
Mm-hmm.
did this happen and stuff. And then at like what you say, it's like that's really good to actually have that mindset, especially if you're in treatment as well already, to look at things more positive and optimistic in a way, and to get through that way.
Absolutely. And so like and there'll be a whole story behind this part, but yeah, I mean there was a lot of ups and downs too. So even though I said that in the moment, there was many times not just through, so immediately after I was diagnosed with cancer, I was put onto chemotherapy, and like that day, and they started intense chemotherapy on me where I had 5 rounds, which is about 2.5 months, where my body just completely depleted. And if anybody knows somebody who's been on chemotherapy, they know how dangerous these drugs are to your body. I mean, it just kills all your good and bad cells. And I had a lot of ups and downs too, and a lot of mental challenges that I had to overcome. One of the hardest obstacles that I ended up having to face was right in the middle of my chemotherapy. I'd already lost my hair. I was super weak. I was super tired. My 4-year-old puppy passed away from cancer, and yeah, right in the middle of it too. And before I was diagnosed with cancer, would take my puppy, his name was Duke, and I would take him to all of his chemotherapy sessions before this. And I was just like, I was always there for him, and to see him struggling and not be able to make it, and us fighting together at the time, it hit me so hard, mentally mostly, and that equated to my physical part too. So I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to go to my chemotherapy sessions. I didn't want to eat the right foods I needed to be eating, or eating food at all if I could, doing anything right, because I was just so depressed. I was so depleted. And I was just like, I was in that why is this happening to me mentality. And eventually, about probably almost a week later, I woke up and I was like, you know what? Is this what Duke or my family or my friends or Lauren, my girlfriend, would want me to do? Is to just give up on myself? And I said, absolutely not. So I got my ass up off of my bed, and I started doing the things I needed to do. I started going to the chemotherapy. I started getting healthier. I started walking on the days I felt good. And eventually I overcame all of those obstacles, and I completed my chemotherapy.
Wow, that must be so difficult. Like you're going in the journey basically together with your dog,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or yeah, and then it's like, oh my God, because your dog is like your little baby, you know?
She's your best friend, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. And me and him were in it together. I mean, it was a tough, you know, like I said, you can't control a lot of things in life, but you can't control situations, at least. And the things that you can't control, like that, for instance, you can control how you deal after it, meaning how you face a problem. And when you're, faced with some type of adversity such as that, how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to handle it in a way of, I'm going to use this to push myself forward, or am I going to use this to push myself backwards? And I had no option but to push myself forward, or I was going to be in the same situation, unfortunately. So,
Yeah, definitely. And I'm very happy you say that, because I feel like the same. I felt very down and depressed and stuff for a very long time. And at some point I was thinking to myself, why do I feel like this? And I already felt like that for months and months. And I'm thinking, I need to change my mindset, because this is not helpful in any type of way. So I need to improve that the best way I can, because this hasn't helped me. So it's really like also questioning yourself, like, is this emotion, or is this way of thinking or perspective really going to improve myself and my surroundings and stuff. So I'm very happy you say that's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if it doesn't serve you, if your thoughts and your actions don't serve you in a way that's going to help you go forward, it's only bringing not just you, but your environment around you, the people around you, and it affects more than just yourself. So
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely. So you said you had chemo and you had the surgery, right?
Yeah, so after chemotherapy, I want to share something between chemotherapy and my surgery, which was actually because the surgery after chemotherapy is when the real like crazy journey begins for me. But in between, I wanted to share something really cool. And so after I was on my chemotherapy, my dad decided to host an event. It was basically an event to celebrate my chemotherapy and the fact that I had completed it, and it was on Thanksgiving. Sorry, excuse me. It was on Thanksgiving morning, and I had just completed my chemotherapy. And what Cleveland, Ohio does is they host what's called a 5K and a 10K race, and it's just called the Turkey Trot. And we decided that we're just going to get a bunch of people that morning to come celebrate my chemotherapy, and then also run the race that Cleveland, Ohio hosts. So we had no idea how many people were going to show up, but we just knew we wanted to celebrate. And we ended up having over 400 people show up at that event. We ended up giving them T-shirts. I did like a small speech. My dad did one. And we ended up calling the event Mustaches for Matt. And the reason we called it Mustaches for Matt was because when I was starting off my chemotherapy, I ended up losing my hair, but I kept on this like really dirty mustache. It was bad. Yeah, it was real bad. And so instead of my friends like making fun of me, of course they weren't going to do that. All of my guy friends said, you know what? We're going to grow mustaches with you throughout this entire journey as well. So throughout my entire chemotherapy, all of the dads and all of my guy friends grew mustaches. And when we got to the event, we called it Mustaches for Matt. And the girls ended up wearing fake mustaches, and it was just so cool. And for me, it just goes to show that you have so many people, so much support in your life that you might not even realize when you're going through certain situations. So like if you feel you're alone right now in a current setback or a situation that you're going through, I want you to know that you're really not. You just have to realize that there is somebody out there that wants to help you. And when you do find them, realize that like you need to almost latch onto them, because you can't fight these journeys alone. Like especially cancer. Cancer is one of those things where it's just like it's that battle that you need to have those people around you in that environment to keep pushing yourself forward, because it's just as much of a mental battle yourself as it is everybody else. So that was just an absolutely amazing event, and it just went to show that I had so many people by my side that I didn't even realize.
That's amazing. Oh my
Thank
God.
you.
I love that. Yeah, and I just think about this. Like in the Netherlands, we have obviously quite some people who have cancer or dealing with cancer, young adults, children and stuff. And we're very open about it and stuff. You know, we have a childhood cancer hospital called Princess Maxima, and like the media is very focused on that, like as shows and information days and all this.
Yeah.
But we don't have it like you guys in America are so much of a community and so humble to each other about that. Like, I mean, what we have is like when I had cancer, I was 11 years old, and I had like friends from my parents or people I never talked to from school, their parents or my friends. Gave my parents like, hey, I'm here for you and all this stuff. But we don't really. Well, that's my experience at least. Maybe there is. I'm not too sure. I mean, sometimes they have like some kind of event like that, with like a child who has cancer or something. But you guys are very, very connected and very, very open and very helpful to each other. What I see, it's like very nice. Like,
yeah. And for me, I was very lucky. Like I do have an amazing group of friends. I have an amazing family, and I'm very grateful for that. And I guess what I was trying to explain too is like, it doesn't have to be 400 people like that. It can be one person, and I guarantee you, in your life, there is one person that is there for you. And that's the most important part. But it is amazing to see, like in the United States, like there's so many different cancer organizations now that I'm cancer free that I've been connecting with, and that I've been working with to try and help other, young adults that are facing these issues. And it's very eye opening because, until you know somebody or you've been through that situation, you kind of don't realize how crazy things can get. But just very grateful. And yeah, you're absolutely correct. Down here, in the United States, it's very supportive in cancer.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's I see a lot of people in either Canada or in America who have like either their someone their child has cancer or themselves. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like people who are like young adults who start their own foundation and stuff. I'm like, wow, you're like
Yeah.
16. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, did you experience complications from chemo and cancer treatment?
Yeah, so chemo, like I was saying before, I lost my hair. I was very fatigued. I was on point with my nausea medicine, which helped a lot, but I didn't have a big appetite. So the good thing was I wasn't like extremely nauseous, but I didn't have an appetite really. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to all the symptoms I'm saying. Another little complication I had throughout chemo was I ended up, so in the beginning, I ended up getting all my IVs through my arm because I was a personal trainer at the time. I had good veins, and it was easy to get blood work from me into chemotherapy. Well, eventually in round 4, which was the second to last round, I was going in one day, crazy weak. I had to get wheelchaired in actually, and they went to go prick me, and they missed 5 times because in order to get your chemo, you need to get blood returned. Well, they missed my vein 5 different times because they were all clotted up from the chemotherapy, and I literally almost passed out. So they're like, okay, we need to get you in tomorrow for surgery to get you a port, and really aggravated me. And I was super upset because at this point I was crazy weak at the time, and I didn't want to have to go get a port, but I ended up doing it, and it was the best decision of my life. And that's what made my chemotherapy 10 times easier. And I'm sure most people automatically get a port when they're going through some type of chemo. But for me, I didn't at the time. And that was like a game changer for me. So that was kind of my extent with chemotherapy. And then if you want, I can kind of get into the part of like the surgery after and all of that.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So after that, after my event, I ended up going to see my oncologist, and he sat down with me and he said, Matt, we have some good news and we have some bad news. Good news is your tumor has shrunk from 11 centimeters to 3 centimeters. I was like, awesome. That's great. He said, bad news is your tumor is actually wrapped around what's called your inferior vena cava. Now, your inferior vena cava is a main vein. It's like a central vein that starts from the bottom of your upper body that goes directly to your heart. We're going to have about a 10 to 12 hour surgery with 3 to 4 surgeons involved, and we don't know what the complications are going to entail. So then I was like, oh God, all right, well, I'm going to be panicked here for the next 2 weeks because the surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks, I was just like, didn't talk to anybody, stayed by myself, and I was like, just wanted to get this over with. And eventually the day comes, and going into the surgery, I had lost about 40 pounds. So it was about 140 to 145 pounds, going into the surgery. Coming out of the surgery, I was close to 200 pounds. And I remember waking up, it was a 10 to 12 hour surgery, and I had all this swelling in my stomach. And I remember asking my doctor, I said, is this normal? I could barely walk. I was in a ton of pain. I was probably seduced for like 2 or 3 days. And he tells me, he's like, this isn't normal, but the fluid should drain out of your stomach. We have like a little drain that it should, kind of release all the fluid from. I said, okay, that's fine. And, a week goes by, I'm released from the hospital, still really hard time walking, doing anything. Another week goes by, all of a sudden the draining in my stomach just stops like that, just stops. Within like an hour, I'm in so much pain. I get rushed back to the emergency room where they ended up having to drain 7 liters of fluid out of my stomach, causing me to go into complete kidney and liver failure. I had a cone drilled inside my head to relieve any type of brain swelling. I had a catheter in my neck and in my chest to because they thought I was going to be on dialysis the rest of my life. And I had a breathing tube in my mouth, and I was in a coma for 2 weeks. And so while I was in that coma, I'm going to share my testament of faith, but I don't push faith on anybody. So there's no right and wrong here. But for me, I do believe in God, and I'll share my reasons why. So like when I was in my coma, we had 3 major prayer services, and we had hundreds of people that would go to church and just pray for me. And in the middle of the last prayer service was the day that I woke up from my coma.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and it wasn't just like, oh, I woke up and I can walk or anything. No, it's like me opening my eyes and wiggling my fingers. And I knew right then that was God telling me, hey, Matt, this isn't the end of your journey. This is just the beginning. And I knew this was my second chance at life. And so a week goes by, and I'm finally starting to make very little progress, not able to walk or anything. I'm still bedridden, but they finally take the breathing tube out of my mouth so I can say a couple of words, but I'm completely out of it. When I talk, I'm just like saying random things at the time. But eventually they seen that I was making some progress. So they wanted to take one of the catheters out of my neck. So they go to take out one of the catheters on my neck, and I end up having an irrhythm heartbeat and end up going into cardiac arrest. I ended up having to do 10 minutes of CPR on me, and I was back into another 1-week coma. At this point, I've been in the ICU now for about 3.5 weeks. And I ended up waking up, and I actually woke up on Valentine's Day, which was February 14th. And I woke up to flowers and, all these hearts and stuff that my girlfriend had made for me. And yeah, it was really special. And my parents were there and everything. And, they were my absolute rock. And I'll get to the reasoning why in a little bit. But from then, I had to pretty much relearn to rebuild my entire life again. From laying in my bed to sitting in my bed took almost a week. From sitting to standing took almost a week. From standing to taking my very first steps again, that whole process almost took about 2.5 to 3 weeks just to do that. And it wasn't like I could do it on my own. I had 2, 3, 4 nurses at a time helping me do this process. And slowly but surely I was making some progress, but it just didn't seem right. And at the time I had already had 4 surgeries in a matter of probably a month and a half, if that. And I remember, though, I said, there's just something that doesn't feel right. My stomach is hurting. I feel weird. But eventually they're like, okay, you're making enough progress to get you out of the ICU room. So they get me out of the ICU room. 3 days out of the ICU room and into my recovery room, I'm making more progress, but something still doesn't feel right for me. But, they say everything's fine. And they're wheeling me out to go to my final stage, which is like a physical therapy to eventually get me out of the hospital. Well, as they're wheeling me out, I end up looking down at my stitches, which I had from my left hip to my right hip. And my stitches had popped open, and my spleen and my intestines were sticking out of my stomach. They had to rush me into a 5th major surgery where they ended up having to do what's called an open wound surgery. Now, the open wound surgery means you can't stitch yourself back up. They had to leave my stomach wide open and put a mesh over it. And I'm sure you can already tell I was back in the ICU room once again. And at this point, I remember waking up. I had a breathing tube in my mouth. I had my hands and my legs strapped to the bed because I guess I was moving too much. And at this point, I remember waking up and I was conscious enough to know where I was. And I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything except for just think. And at this point, I hit officially rock bottom. And I remember looking up and just asking God, I said, God, I have 2 options here. I can give up on my life right now, or I can say I'm in the lowest part of my life, and the only place I can go is up. So eventually when they took the breathing tube out of my mouth, they undid my hands and legs. Within 3 days, I got my ass up and I walked further than I ever did previous to any of the times in the ICU room, any of the times in that recovery room. Within 4 to 5 days, I was out of the ICU room. I was into that recovery room again. Within 2 days, I was out of that recovery room and already into my physical therapy. And with the physical therapy, it was like learning to do daily activities again, such as sitting on a toilet, getting up off of a bed, doing things that we take for granted every day. I had to relearn to live completely over again. And within about a week and a half, I was released from the hospital. And this is a really powerful story. So I was released from the hospital on March 17th of 2017. Exactly 1 year before that was the exact day, March 17th of 2016 was the day that I met Lauren, my girlfriend.
Oh.
Yeah. And for me, it was God saying, I am putting this person in your life for a reason. And Lauren, I didn't mention her too much around my story, but Lauren stayed with me every single night through chemotherapy. She would sleep with me at my house when I wasn't feeling good. Then, when I was in that hospital for 53 days, she stayed every single night there. She would wake up at 6 in the morning, come see me, come visit me, go to work, come back. Saturday, she would stay the whole day. Sunday, she would stay the whole day. She was just there every single day. And I just know that she was meant to be in my life for a reason. And this is just a message for all of you who are potentially going through cancer, know somebody who's going through cancer. There is somebody there that is meant to be in your life for a reason. And or if you're that person that you are helping somebody with cancer, you are that person that is meant to be there for them. I just want you to know that because, like I said before, we cannot fight these battles alone. And without her and my family, well, I wouldn't be here today. No doubt. And same with my friends and everything else and, all the support I've had. But yeah, at that point, getting out of the hospital, I told you I was 200 pounds. When they relieved all that swelling, when I couldn't eat or drink for almost 53 straight days, I went from almost 200 pounds to 110 pounds in a matter of 2.5 months. So I lost about 90 pounds. Yeah. And that was the most difficult part was when I got out of that hospital, I had no accountability as nurses every day coming into my room and doing all these things to hold me accountable to start being active again. And I started to make those excuses. I started to blame myself. I started to say, why me? Because I was at home and I didn't have the nurses and the doctors always pushing me to do my physical therapy and all these things. So within about 3 weeks, I ended up back in the hospital for about almost a week because I had extremely high resting heart rate, which was 150 beats per minute. And I had a fever of like 104 or 103 degrees. And coming out of that hospital, I remember having like a life-changing moment. I sat down with Lauren and we had this crazy deep talk of how I needed to change my life around. And the next day, I grabbed a pair of 5-pound dumbbells and I was sitting in my chair and I just did bicep curls. That's all I did. Just bicep curls with 5-pound dumbbells. Next day I did the same thing. Next day I did the same thing. And then after that, little brick by little brick, I started walking a little further. I started eating the right foods. And within a month and a half to 2 months, I gained 20 to 25 pounds. And I was just recovering slowly but surely. And yeah, like I'm telling you, you might feel like you're stuck or at a super low point, but doing little things every day to just better yourself, just something little every day, it doesn't have to be this massive thing, will eventually get you to a destination of your bigger and greater purpose or your bigger and greater destination that you actually want to achieve. It can be your health, it could be your business, it could be your relationship, anything. So, that was kind of where I was. And one last story I want to share before, obviously I'm sure you have some questions and stuff. About 5-6 months after, I was probably at that point 140 to 145 pounds. I ended up going to back to the ICU room to visit my nurses. I go there and I'm like, okay, I just saw my oncologist because I wanted to make sure everything was going well with my cancer and stuff like that. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go visit my ICU nurses. And the first person I saw when I walked into that ICU room was the nurse that saved my life when I went into cardiac arrest. We ended up crying. We ended up hugging each other. And he looked at me and he said, Matt, this was my last day in the ICU room. I'm getting transferred to a new hospital. And I know for a fact I would have never seen you again if you didn't stop in today. Once again, people being brought into your life for reasons. And now we have each other's numbers, we text each other, we are on social media and all these amazing things. So yeah, and now fast forward 2.5, 3 years later, I'm a motivational speaker. I am a transformational coach, meaning mind and body. And I'm just helping individuals who are going through adversity and having setbacks in their life to find that clarity and that purpose that comes along with having these deep challenges. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, and love to answer any questions.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That's really good. And I just want to give a lot of credit to the people around you, and especially your girlfriend, your parents as well, of course, but especially your girlfriend. There are so many, like, it's very interesting because my previous boyfriend, he's my best friend now, but I dated him when he had cancer for the second time. So we were going through that. So I know what you're going through or what she's going through, which is kind of weird to say, the fact that I have been on both sides now.
You can, yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah, but it's also like I've seen so many stories from people who are together for very long or for very short, and people just leave and don't talk and ghost them and everything. I just want to give credit to her because that's absolutely incredible. I was there as well a lot for my best friend during the treatment and surgery and stuff. So that was really cool, and we really have a strong connection now too. It's like. I mean, we're not together anymore, but we're very like, wow, we went through a lot, so it's really cool to look back on that and to be able to talk about that as well, that that you're going through that or have been through that and share that with each other. So it's very special, definitely.
Thank you. No, thank you. And it's very special to hear your side of the story as well. And honestly, yeah, it's wild to see that you've gone through both ends and you understand now the real capacity of both sides, and neither of them are easy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you ended up being that person in that light for your best friend now and your used to be boyfriend, that I guarantee you, without you, it would be a lot harder for him to go through that journey. So
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So you said, well, we already said a little bit like you're a motivational speaker and transformation coach. What is a transformation coach? Like, what do you do? Can you talk more about that?
Of course, yeah. So I used to be a personal trainer, and I still am a personal trainer. And most people know what a personal trainer is. It helps with health and fitness, nutrition, and working out, basically. Well, me as a transformational coach, now that I have this experience, this life-changing experience of not just having to go through the physical part of it, but really having to go through the mental struggles, the emotional struggles, the spiritual struggles. And when I say spiritual, it doesn't mean like faith. It's more like just a life transformation, like you're spiritually transformed. And that's kind of what I've been helping people with, is transforming their, something that they've gone through in life, an adversity that has been letting them define them for so long. It doesn't have to be cancer. It could be, a financial loss, or it could be something like an injury, or it could be almost anything that's been something that's letting you define you, and you don't have that clarity to get out of it. And I'm helping people find that clarity mentally and physically, get out of it, and then use that to kind of find their purpose in life. Because usually your purpose comes from a lot of your most difficult setbacks is what I look at. So like when you find something that's been a huge challenge for you, when you overcome it, you really find your purpose and your passion in life. And then once you find that, I help them use that to help other people with it. So first is healing yourself. This is kind of how I usually do it. I figure out, how do you heal yourself first? Because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. So you have to take care of yourself first, and then say, wow, okay, I've overcome, I've realized what I've gone through. I've overcome that part. Now, how can I use this to start helping other people? Or how can I use this to find my purpose first? So what is my purpose? I don't know. If I were to ask 90% of people, they wouldn't know what their purpose or passion is in life. They just wouldn't. And that's okay. I'm not saying you have to know right away, but you should be looking for it. So I help them find that. And then once they do start to discover it, I help them use it to really go out and impact the world with their story, with their message, because maybe not everybody can relate to my story, but your story, for example, somebody can relate to on your side of the story, or somebody else's story. So That's kind of my objective as a transformational coach. And as a motivational speaker, I really just go up there. I love sharing my messages to other people along with my story, because I really think that, you know, sharing your most vulnerable parts in life can really help somebody change their perspective on what they're currently going through.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. That's really good. And when did you really decide, like, okay, I should start do something with this?
I love that question. Yeah. So sorry, I didn't know if you have any other thing to say. Sorry about
No,
that.
I'm just hyped.
Okay. Yeah. No, this is great. I absolutely love that question because I don't get asked that enough. And especially in a lot of my podcasts that I end up doing. You know what? Actually, really, there's two things that changed my life completely. One of them I already shared with you, which was um, when I was out of the hospital and I told you I started getting into that mental lull again of, depression, excuses for myself, all of these things. And I ended up back in the hospital with an elevated heart rate and all of that. And then I ended up sitting down and talking to my girlfriend. Well, we had like this deep discussion of just, I needed to change my life. And if I didn't, then the hard truth was I'm going to die. Like, that was the hard truth. Just because I was out of the hospital at that time did not mean anything. I was still 110 pounds. I still could barely walk. I still was not very healthy. I was just healthy enough to get out of the hospital at that time. But then I went back into it. So that was one shift of me changing my life, not worrying about how I'm going to help other people, but how I changed my life around and then doing the things I needed to do. So sometimes you need a hard realization of, like, it doesn't have to be death, but it could be something else of, wow, if I don't do this, this is probably what's going to happen. And if it does, then that is a terrible situation that you do not want to be in. So you need to do X, Y, and Z to get out of it. So that's why I just did little things every day. And then after that, I would say about a year and a half later, I had finally started to heal myself. I was at a point where I'm like, okay, I can start trying. I knew I had this purpose, but I had no clue what to do with it. I was like, I don't know where I want to go in life. I'm not really quite sure, until I ran across this podcast, and the guy's name was Ed Milet. He's a motivational speaker, and he is more of like really talks about the importance of following your dreams, following your purpose in life. And I came across this 1-hour podcast of him sharing his life story of how he was broke at the age of 21, couldn't even afford like electricity, water bills, and he got himself out of the situation. And now he's almost a billionaire, and he's helping millions of people, not with just a story, but with, how he started a business and all of these things. And it totally changed my mindset of like, oh my gosh, like, he went through something. He used his story to get out of a situation. So now, how am I going to use my story to get myself out of this situation and help other people? So that's what really shifted my life, was in the second way of helping other people, was finding somebody that I could look up to as a mentor, and being like, trying to almost not mimic them exactly what they're doing, but like mimic their good qualities that they have, and really try to focus on that. And that's when I started to build relationships with different people and networking and getting myself out there and not being afraid of failure and fear and what other people might say to me and things like that. So that was kind of my mental shift.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I love that, because I'm learning as well a lot about that. Like, I read a lot about Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, I think is his name.
Yeah,
Tony Robbins,
love it.
yeah. Gary Vee, so many.
Gary Vee's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's really cool. It's really I 100% agree. It's like you can improve your mindset, and so, well, yeah, like, your mindset is really the key to your success and your happiness. It's not money or doesn't matter what your situation is. So yeah, that's absolutely incredible. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, everything starts in the mind. I'm going to tell you that right now. Everything starts with the right mindset. You can't get out of a situation without a right mindset. And yeah, cool story about Gary Vee is, I actually, about 8 months ago, I was at a conference and I got to ask him a question. in like front of like 1,000 people. It was super nerve-wracking, but it was really cool. And he ended up posting it on one of his social media platforms. So it was super awesome to see.
Oh my God, I love that. Oh, I need to check that
Yep.
out.
Check it out for sure. You go on my Instagram page and you can see it. It's on his YouTube channel, but I actually posted it on my Instagram page as well.
Oh, awesome. I'm so hyped.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you say like you do the personal training stuff and like the transformation coach
Yep.
stuff, not just for cancer survivors and patients, also like for anybody, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to be somewhat niche down because you can't just go 100% broad, at least right away. I mean, like, you have to start somewhere. And for me, it's really, yes, when it comes to my motivational speaking, this is for anybody because anybody can be going through some type of adversity. But with my transformational coaching, I really want to start to target individuals that have gone through something that has been a life-changing moment for them, but it's still defining them. So, for example, it could be depression, it could be cancer, it could be a financial situation, it could be something with a relationship, it could be anything like that. And I want to help them, starting with their mind, to overcome that. And then we can work on other aspects of like the physical part and things like that to really try and heal themselves first, find their purpose, help other people with their purpose and their passion. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's amazing. Thank you. And it's really interesting. Like we have so much in common because I feel the same. Like I was very lost and confused and stuff before, like with life after cancer, when that started. Like how do you get back to life and how do you deal with things from chemo or cancer or the trauma or something like this. And then I started a podcast and I'm like, wow, this is really, now I understand what what I want to do. I mean, I studied fashion for 2 years and I graduated from that and I have a diploma, but I really feel like whenever I upload a podcast, I feel like I'm succeeding, So
I love it.
yeah, like that's really like, wow, like the first time I did a podcast and I uploaded, I'm like, wow, I'm actually doing something with my life. I still like fashion, but it's just a hobby now. So it's like, yeah, I really it's really cool to learn that and to see what's really important and good to do as well. So yeah, I love it.
So true. Oh, that's awesome. And I'm so happy that you're finding your direction because it's not like this thing happens overnight. Like I said before, little brick by little brick, because you are going to have a roller coaster ride in whatever you do. And, I love that you're starting this podcast because this is just that one step to really opening doors up for you. So this is amazing. And I'm happy to be on it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm so happy to talk to you, and all the stuff you're telling me. It's like I keep wanna think, oh, I want to know more and stuff. So it's really really cool. And yeah, it's really nice. Do you have advice for someone who's having a hard time right now dealing with everything, either regarding like they're in cancer treatment or surgery or with life after cancer, or they're feeling very down?
100%. So, one thing I want to tell you is that, especially for all of you individuals who are going through cancer right now, or if you're a cancer survivor and you're still feeling like it's defining you, I just want you to know that, focus on the stuff you can control in life. Focus on the things you can control, because when you start to let the things that you can't control define you, that's when depression, anxiety, excuses, all those negative thoughts start to come into your mind. But when you focus on the things you can control, like eating right or going for walks when you feel healthy, or, making sure you go to all your treatments and doing the proper things that you need to do to get yourself healthy, that's when the universe and life starts to give you opportunities that you maybe thought were never potentially happen. And that's when potential miracles happen. And I understand there's some people out there that are like, well, Matt, my cancer is something that is non-curable or whatever, like a crazy difficult situation. Well, you're still alive and you're still on this earth right now. And the best thing I can say is that, like I said before, is look at life is, how is this a lesson and how am I able to just keep pushing forward throughout these situations? So remember, only let the things that you can control go through your mind. The things you can't, don't let them define you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Of course.
And where can people reach out to you and contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram is my best platform. So it's MATTY Matty _ODE. So you can find me on there. Instagram is great because I post on my stories all the time. I'll post on my feed like once a week at least. So that's a good place to interact. You can follow me on Facebook, which is just Matt Ode, MATTODE. And then you could also follow me on LinkedIn if you had like a business profile. Same thing, Matt Ode as well. And I also have a YouTube channel as well where me and my girlfriend have started a channel. It's called Dating After Diagnosis. We kind of go through our ups and downs together through cancer, but now we're also going through just our relationship now, like, and how we've dealt with certain things. So that you can find, it's called my event that I was talking about before, Mustaches for Matt. If you just type in Mustaches for Matt, it will pop up as the channel on YouTube.
Awesome, thank you. I will put also all your information and your website or the social media in the description below. So that's going to be helpful, I think.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is a group. I love these talks. These are just something new comes up every time that I have an amazing conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, it's really nice to talk to and to learn from you. And as well, like I feel so much, even though I already felt like energized and hyped, I'm even more energized and hyped and be like, yeah, I can do this, you know? So thank you so much. It's really cool. It's really nice. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on. And, if you need me for anything else in the future, I'd be happy to help in any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to contact me, go to instagram.com/thefabulouscancerpodcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.